the energies on this planet, in this nation, in society, in the activist movement, they are so very intense at this time. And instead of just look in certain directions, we need to be super aware of not only what's taking place geopolitically, what's taking place economically, but what's taking place psychologically. You know, so there is some attention that we do need to give today to the toxic narcissism within the leadership of quote unquote the liberty movement. It's more of an abstract term. Some would argue that there is no real movement, but for sake of simplicity, the term truth movement, liberty movement, we've had now at least several decades to see which ones rise and which ones sink to the bottom. And after a certain amount of time, what type of dirt is accrued about some of these operations. So I've had my suspicions about certain individuals, and I don't make all of that public. It's pure speculation, but I've seen certain things confirmed over time. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time for people to wake up and smell the coffee. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for the facade to wear off, for the charisma to wear off, for the spell to wear off. Today is probably the first day that I'm directing your attention to a well-known YouTuber by the name of Larken Rose. He's very well respected in the liberty movement, and I haven't listened to a lot of his lectures. Met him briefly at the 2013 Mark Passio for Your Mind conference. I was busy and also tired from the trip, came from Colorado into Philadelphia, so I didn't get around to talk to Larken Rose, but I wanted to, and he did agree to an interview, but it just didn't work out at that time. Since then, he has grown in the ranks, if you will, like Mark Passio and others, talking about the non-aggression principle. And others, like myself, have noticed that some people use the non-aggression principle of movement as a front for their own agenda. So within the philosophical debate ranks of the non-aggression principle, we have the statists, and we have those that have maintained their non-statist philosophy. For example, this last election did change the mentalities and behaviors of some people that previously claimed to be a part of the voluntarist movement. And so there's been a lot of micro issues. I'm just an independent philosopher that comments on real events, world events, social trends, celestial events, and also speaking from my heart. So I'm a little outside the box, right, to even be accepted by most circles, even within the alternative media, because my information is so abstract and all over the place. But I believe that my outside the box views have their place. And there is a specific reason why I've maintained my neutrality and I've stayed out of groups. I've been invited to join other people's groups, whether it was Gary Franchi's Facebook version, the Republic social media thing back in the day, which I wasn't really into, as well as other things. And I've also been asked for years by the follower mindset of the research community and the consumer base of, say, YouTube videos. Hey, why don't you follow this person? Why don't you get into this person's camp? Hey, things would be easier if... I remember one girl named Laura. She liked both Alex Jones and the Young Turks, and she was pressuring me to try to, you know, get involved with either or, which is ridiculous because there's things that I speak about which both those individuals, Cenk and Alex Jones, would consider crazy and something they wouldn't want to get to or get close to. I'm outside the left-right paradigm. So there's been plenty of women, plenty of people out there in the past that have... fail to see the value in a man's unique insight. When a man doesn't follow another man, almost sounds like there should be a romantic overtone to this. When a man doesn't follow other men. Okay, it doesn't have the right syllables, but you know where I'm going with that. And so for me, it's a big social turnoff when I see people stuck in the hierarchy mindset instead of those that actually believe in accessing the truth within or doing their own research, to be frank. So I've seen a lot of people promote Adam Kokesh over the years, and briefly meeting him and being turned off by that experience, interviewing him briefly, and then becoming aware and doing my own research into all there is regarding his interactions and dealings with others, missing funds, most alarming and most infuriating to me personally, allegations of abuse of women or past girlfriends. You see, even within the truth movement or liberty movement, or conspiracy circles, you still have the dominant consciousness. And a lot of women, even in research circles, even if they claim to be against the dominant aggressor male, when you actually do a microscope on their real relationships and what type of abuse they allow then the picture becomes a little bit more clear. And so this is less about Adam, but more the nature of the human psychology and how bad it is for herd behavior to take over in relationships. People still in master-slave relationships while claiming they're involved in the liberty movement. Their relationships don't necessarily manifest it or manifest that type of peaceful, non-threatening relationships. And I listened to a podcast last night. I forget the guys. They're in New Hampshire as well. They knew Cantwell back in the day before he went in his current direction. And they were talking about how, especially speaking from their experience and knowing Adam and others, there are people that hide behind the charismatic non-aggression principle, certain type of a personality, whereas off camera, you know, there's a fair amount of abuse going on to their crew, their staff, and things of that nature. There's also another YouTuber that I never met, but briefly helped out on his website. And there he is in Los Angeles, right? You know, doing the whole Bitcoin thing with his boy, right? Somebody he basically hired to be his boy, deliberately showing them, following him around with cameras where they themselves should be doing their own reports. And so his whole media platform is about building up his own godlike status, false god status, worship of money, worship of mammon. Look at me, look at my followers, look at my slaves, look at my employees. You know, with Alex Jones and the FEMA reporters, it was look at my bitches. Same thing with Adam Kokesh. And see audience members, men and women, respond to other men or women, but in particular men that project a sense of power, that project a sense of alpha. And they can be alpha and they can play that super sexy role and that Superman role and that muscle man role. Oh, Adam Kokesh, he's marching with the troops against Iraq. And there's a story, where are those other veterans against the Iraq war that initially helped Adam's rise to stardom? Not to mention other things, his father. But this is not going to be solely about him. This is about what has been discovered and brought to our attention by Larken Rose. You see, because up until this point, we've had missing money. We've had allegations of abuse from several girlfriends, including one that Adam put on his own channel, a video of her apologizing for slandering Adam, when it turns out she was just simply speaking out about what happened, but it was her responsibility for getting in that relationship and signing the slave contract. For those of you that don't know who I'm talking about, to give you a Cliff Note version, but you can find out the information for yourself. He was doing his own off-grid thing out in Arizona. And even back then, hey, Alex, maybe you want to go up and sniff up on Adam. Yeah, maybe go, yeah, no, man, you guys don't know the difference between us. And that's sad. I'm not saying all of you. But say a lot of people are still in this alpha. Someone's got to follow somebody and crawl up on the hierarchy instead of a man doing it himself and speaking his own truth without the need for his other fellow male or female peers to boost him up or validate. I've had to keep going without people validating my ideas. If someone wants to interact with me, especially those that are bigger than life on YouTube, all they got to do is send an email. Me, the little guy on YouTube who's already considered crazy, isn't going to be that guy to make the first step. I've done that over the years. I did my time. I found out what it was like trying to contact some of these people, and especially after 2010, 2011, 2012, there's been an increased coldness. And I've mentioned this in past videos. There's been a real lack of community. You see how few people are even guests, for example, podcasts, for example. Back in the day, people wanted to interact a little bit more and help each other create media. Now you've all been a little divided into our own little boxes and our own little micro-political ideologies, when I just want to see people free of those boxes, of those ideologies. Not go deeper into politics and the left-right paradigm, but come away from the spell. So I've watched even close friends borderline worship this individual, Molyneux, others, and even seeing now people that were my actual friends in high school almost got lost in their material and completely threw my material away because Adam and Molyneux and others were fitting that type of, I can only assume, alpha, almost militant, I know everything, narcissism. They have a certain type of charm and charisma and delivery that works on their fellow tribal members, lost in tribalism, that don't understand they're being sold a fake bill of goods. So this individual by the name of Adam Kokesh, who's admitted to torture overseas and psychological warfare operations, civil affairs unit, but we don't really have the details on exactly what it is that he did and the details of that torture. But we do know that he was placed on the scene, if you will, and very quickly on RT, which we know is controlled opposition. So the irony here, and I do believe that Larken Rose has made some very valid points, yeah, a lot of people aren't going to see that because they're still lost in the charisma. And so we've seen, like I said, the warning signs, and what we're looking at now is potential evidence of his campaign manager probably using funds from Adam's support base in talkings with a particular individual to hack this other individual. He's the one that made this post on Steemit, and you can find Volunteerist Japan, his YouTube channel, online on your own, as well as Larkin Rose's breakdown. And so before I get started, you should know that Larkin Rose and Adam Kokesh have basically shared the same stage, you know, debating certain things. How are you going to take down the state by being elected president? How does this make sense? To the point where Larkin Rose became more of an active critic, and other people were criticizing, well, where's this money really going? Are you even really running for 2020, or is the whole thing an ultra scam? Just keep collecting money and collecting money when people are duped into thinking that they have no other choice, that you either have the mainstream options or you have this Adam Kokesh 2020 operation, PSYOPs. You know, and the irony there is he did a talk called COINTELPRO, Adam Kokesh himself, at Mark Passio's For Your Mind conference. I believe it was number 5. Larkin Rose said at the end of his video that he will never share the same stage as Adam Kokesh. He will never go to any conference where people are enabling his behavior. And I want to applaud Larkin Rose for that. It just didn't take this long for him to reach this, this awareness. It shouldn't have had to take this long. This could have been seen a long time ago, and he admits that. And so, you know, I think there's a lot of people out there that are wondering why they're not moving forward, I guess, with freedom and liberty, that are in the non-aggression principle movement, anarcho-capitalism, voluntarism. And I would say there's far too much time spent debating with people that are already lost. And so, like, right now, we're like still in, like, you know, this like online debate world where people are debating ideas. And yes, these ideas can change the world as we know it, but some people are kicking a dead horse by getting involved in the wrong relationships with the wrong people. And so whether someone's a man or whether someone's a woman, if they're stuck in alpha male mindset, right, no matter how much evidence is ever shown about certain individuals, if their biological wiring hasn't upgraded to something more spiritual, they will follow anyone who's the biggest, who seems to be the most intelligent, who speaks the biggest line, who's able to be the most charismatic. And some people are incredibly gifted with the gift of gab. And they know exactly what to say. They know how to use neuro-linguistic programming to zone in on a demographic that they're actually taking advantage of. And despite the sense that people are thinking that they're becoming super psychic and aware, they're constantly duped. And many women, unfortunately, led into abusive relationships with men, while in many cases being totally disappointed with, grossed out by, turned off by decent men that would probably rock their world even better than the one they think is the one they're going for. But let's just stick to the facts. So let's get to this. And I don't want to go on all day long, but you know, you need to be aware of this. So I've given you the introduction about this shady individual who's been around our movement for a long time. And the individual that posted this is bringing attention to the fact that he was contacted by a man that was alarmed at the type of job that he was hired to do. We're basically talking about a digital hitman who was hired by random people, and who knows how Adam and or Ben knew him, but he was allegedly hired to carry out a doxing, hacking, and a long list of other things. And in this particular cell phone text message capture, we see Ben Farmer's phone number at the top. So this was passed forward. This was passed forward to this individual by the person that was hired to do the job. The reason why he said that he did it. So we'll go and we'll read this in just a minute. But he said he did it because he did not want to, he blew the whistle because he did not want to be responsible for something really bad and horrible happening to this individual. He looked into this individual and he basically found that his criticisms of Adam Kokesh were warranted. Again, a lot of it related to where did the money go to that people put up, $6,000 when he was in jail, arrested in Texas, and he ended up not bailing out, and that money being donated to the Libertarian Party, although I don't think his ticket is running for the Libertarian Party. So people are obviously asking bigger questions. Is there some sort of attempt to maybe even launder funds, which is fraud basically, that was donated to him to help get him out of bail? Since then, there's been a new controversy with money missing from the Adam Kokesh campaign, and he's blaming, I believe, someone named Angela. And in Larken Rose's video, he details that it appears that Angela, if I have her name correct, appears to be also on the receiving end of threats, with farmers sending her a message saying you have 24 hours to retract your statements about Adam Kokesh. So in light of that, and in light of what we've seen from Macy, and in line of what we've seen from the silence from the earlier girlfriend, Carrie, and they're all reported to have tried to warn the other new girlfriends about something regarding Adam's behavior. Our imagination can only wonder and fill in the blank. And so be aware of that as all of this is ramping up, that basically what Larkin Rose is saying, and in his talk about toxic narcissism, which he says is basically about Adam Kokesh, even though when he gave that speech at a place where Adam was present, that wasn't really made public at the time, but it is now. He's an example of that. People can be really charming, soft-spoken, really sexy with the ladies, coming across as a hero type, and they can be a complete servant to that dominator structure and involved in dominating relationships, abuse, and there are other things that I'm not going to repeat that people are now coming out with now about Adam, and a lot of it is a similar theme between him and women and things that go down. So when we see this, and there are people on YouTube that have worked to look into this video and see whether it is authentic, this particular series of text messages, but it is believed by a number of people that have looked at this that this is not fraudulent. And so, look, let me try to explain this in his words. A whistleblower who works for a high-profile security firm has just reached out to me notifying me that a member of the Kokesh 2020 campaign recently sought services on behalf of the campaign, requesting that this individual take him out in regards to yours truly. The whistleblower wishes to remain anonymous for safety, and I am going to respect that wish. Once this individual found out that I was the victim and that Kokesh team was engaged in manipulation and attempts to aggress against an innocent person, communication was cut. So let me also add in, this needs just a little bit more information. This individual that was targeted by the campaign was commenting a lot on Kokesh's posts and really calling out questions about not only where money is, but their behavior on Steemit, use of resources to upvote particular comments so they can pretty much overshadow and dominate the conversation. So I think that there's a lot of posts that he made on Steemit about waste of resources to the Adam Kokesh that's basically being used to control the dialogue on Steemit, if that makes sense. I'll also say that I stayed away from Steemit after starting an account because I saw most of the trending posts were surrounding Adam Kokesh. And my intuition then was like, oh, I get this feeling that Steemit is more so for particular individuals in the truth movement, so-called cryptocurrency, rather, movement, which is kind of infected elements of a legitimate truth movement that should be more focused on building community rather than crypto. So we're going in the opposite direction of where we should be in a lot of different ways. This is actually a very, very long thing, but this is, again, more than something about him and more about the nasty things that people will do to silence opposition. It's one thing to not want to be bothered. It's one thing to not want to be harassed by a troll. It's another thing to go out, pay money, and hire someone to go after someone, in this case with kids. And when we talk about, well, what can be done? Well, when we look at the text messages, as you'll see, the guy that was working on getting the job from Ben Farmer, campaign manager for Adam Kokesh, or at least he was, I mean, there are things that are coming up in there. We'll take a look. But Larken Rose was concerned that he was another target. there was a request from Farmer to the hacker if he was interested in a bigger target. And Larken Rose, who had been following this whole thing on Steemit for months and months and months, and again, if you type in Larken Rose and Adam Kokesh, you see one video with Larken Rose criticizing Adam Kokesh, what's happening on Steemit. All the others, right, almost look like they're buddy-buddy. Larken Rose, Adam Kokesh, debate, discussion, interview, podcast, video, sharing the same stage, and on and on. These guys are affiliated. Larken Rose is not a troll. Larken Rose is one of the most respected individuals in the true anarchist philosophy movement. You know, his level of delivery, like I'm just not familiar with a bunch of dirt on him. He just seems to be, over time, a more legitimate guy than a lot of other people that come and go. He seems really dedicated to the true, genuine principles. Other people that aren't really dedicated to the true, genuine principles, but are in this for the fanboy aspect, we'll just simply call Larkin a troll or a hater. So, as we go deeper into this information is coming out bit by bit that Ben Farmer was looking to get this guy to go after the individuals that were messing with their money on Steemit, messing with their populist, fake, anti-statist message and platform. So as we get here, we get down to the text messages. The text messages in blue is Mr. Spy Man. The text messages in white come from Ben Farmer. We've got a troll and he's messing with our money on Steemit. My understanding is he's gathered up an army of Steemit users and they went to our big donor to complain. The big donor took 60% of his donation away and we had to beg to get it back. The donor knows he's trolling, but he wants us to work it out. But the troll is completely unreasonable, so I'm out of ideas. We just can't sync his account with our voting power because the Steemit community would get mad and stop supporting us. He talks about having a North Korean programmer and an Asian programmer because the person that they're upset with, that Farmer's upset with, is in Japan. Okay, and I'm not going to read every little bit of this. And he's linking to the specific links that have him upset. I'm pretty positive we can clean up this mess after the holiday. Okay, so according to the guy in Japan, this was all leaked to him, and these are real phone numbers. There's even a PayPal account that is given in this, where it seems like there's another relationship between Farmer and this man that for whatever reason says he has access to the Russian troll farm. But Ben Farmer seems to be in a position to also be receiving funds, at least for a while, from this individual, possibly. And so that is a conclusion that some other people came to that went through this and talked about it on YouTube, and that's not fully clear why. Going back to Mr. Spyman, he says to Ben that he's still arranging his timeline and gathering evidence. Talking about getting his license plate information off some of the videos. Ben Farmer, you're the best. Question, are you interested in a bigger target? This last dude is still attacking, by the way. So I'm asking for advice. Mr. Spyman says, typically I launch a counter-strike. Most trolls that I've come across don't actually understand the Russian art of trolling. My counter-strikes usually consist of a team of actual programmers out of Russia, Ukraine, and the Middle East. I get my team together and we do an in-depth analysis of who we're dealing with, and then we formulate a plan. My kill rate is 100. Now, this had the alarm of a number of YouTubers that were looking at this exchange between Farmer and the Spyman, whether that was something that was just purely metaphorical or if that could mean anything else. He lives in Japan, says Ben, so I don't have any other way to reach him other than digitally. Aw, I'm sure he's small time, but he's got just enough sway in the Steemit community to make things problematic for us. And since most of our funding is coming from Steemit currently, it's most distressing. And so, of course, most of their money's been coming from Steemit, and Steemit seems to be functioning, whether it was designed that way or not, to throw favoritism to those in the Kokesh camp. That's the impression that I got early on, and this confirms a lot of those concerns. He was brazen enough to use one of his kids, or to use his kid. on one of his videos. The troll farm in Russia doesn't discriminate against children. Ben says, I'm not comfortable with that. Spyman says this has nothing to do with Kokesh. Now, Larkin and others also picked up on this too. I'm not comfortable with that, but then he switches and goes, so just keep that to yourself, with a smiley face. Now, if you think the sociopathic threatening behavior ends here, it doesn't. This individual, also by the name of Graham, is it Graham Smith? Graham Smith, also known as Voluntarist Japan, has his own YouTube channel. He goes to Marcus, who is the public relations manager of the Facebook page, and he's being called a troll by him as well. These concerns aren't to be taken seriously, and he's showing him the text messages, and he's trying to confide, like, help me with this. This is, I got a child, man. This is not cool. And so he went to them early on, and there are snapshots of him being ridiculed by the public relations manager of the Kokesh farm. I'm going to go ahead and finish this off. He says, to be clear, once the white hat hacker looked into me and realized I was not engaging in any unethical practice, I was notified and an apology was made. This is creepy shite. Is this your number? Why would you do this? If this team Kokesh, if this is, I suggest that you step back and publicly apologize for threatening the safety and security of myself, my family, by attempting to virtually and potentially physically take me out. Here's a link to my Facebook video. And then we have comments. Larken Rose, 20 days ago. Holy crap, dude. Just holy crap. And y'all can see how comments are monetized. Can you imagine if they were like $1 and quarter and $10 comments as opposed to like the YouTube ones? I'm not saying that this is better. I think that this is a really shady organization. If I had closer friends, for example, that were more knee-deep into crypto, I would be involved in it. I would have crypto icons and things like that on my website. When people are solely into crypto and they don't really hang around for the truth long-term, it never reflects good in the cryptocurrency industry, especially after all these years of doing content, that the people that really do generally seem to have understanding of a certain level of consciousness, those of you out there that are beyond the left-right paradigm, most of you, and some of you that aren't, you may be open spiritually with regards to other concepts, which is why you're here. But you're not the demographic of individuals that are going crypto, 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 BitChute, DTube, crypto, crypto, crypto. When they do, they're bots, they come, but they're not regular commenters. And that's actually something very creepy within maybe the AI YouTube system. You know, that people will come out of the woodwork that are anonymous, that are pushing us onto these alternative platforms, using other people's success as, hey, look at what Adam Kokesh is doing. That could be you. Yeah, if I was running an Adam Kokesh type of a model, a business model, with different type of staffers, running different pages, running different manipulations, staging arrests, going with marijuana down to Texas, raising $6,000, going through a speed trap, speeding twice, mind you. And in the end, you know, that looked like another situation in which the population was Kokeshed and taken for a ride. So, you know, I've never gotten deep into Larkin Rose's material because I have my own material and I don't follow others. I think that there's crossover in a lot of things that people say, but a lot of consumers, and maybe not yourself, but certainly others that find my channel, a lot of people aren't in a mindset of, I'm going to appreciate this person for their own uniqueness. A lot of people are in alpha male, follow the male, sniff the butt hierarchy mode. So they're going to be clearly, whether it's coming from a sexual place, a woman that thinks that certain men should be following other men, and wow, I like that. Because the wiring is like that, the animal mind. But true community has more men and women respecting each other and not forgetting about the liberties being taken away from the men and women overseas. when I see a real lack of people, even in the non-aggression principle movement, not talk about the people that are victimized now, it's a question of legitimacy. People can be at their early level, philosophical levels of what is freedom, what is life, but I think a lot of people are on page 1, and some people aren't even in the book. If people are going to avoid compassion for the people that are being bombed back to the Stone Age, and they're just going to keep their own narcissism about their own liberty and their own freedoms and their own concerns, I don't really have a lot to say to them. They're not in my demographic of the people that I'm speaking to that are understanding my concepts and ideas. But a lot of you guys are, and I appreciate you for being there. So follow the link down below. Check out Larken Rose's YouTube video. Didn't want to take extra time to play it here. Check out what's happening with Voluntarist Japan. Understand this isn't about Adam so much or me attacking him. I didn't even get into the things that I'm aware of, right? This is barely surface level. How does this remind you of people in your community that are power trippers? How does this remind you of some of the other COINTELPRO-like individuals in the alternative media? How is this less about Adam and more about the people in the so-called truth movement, liberty movement, that constantly hold up on a chariot these toxic narcissists? I'm Alex Answer. Until next time, check out the links down below and support if you can.